there is a big hole in the history of the Earth. A hole that has destroyed all the theories of scientists. Look at this. This is the last unicellular being, which was seen on Earth for the first time 3 billion years ago. But then, the next oldest being we have found, which we have got a complete evidence of its existence, that is the multicellular sea sponge, which is about 600 million years old. No, obviously, it is common sense that there should have been many such beings in between these two bunch, which could have shown the transformation from unicellular to multicellular. But can you believe it? Even after modern technology, we have not been able to find a single being which fits perfectly in this gap, which means we have a big problem. A very big part of the history of the Earth's beings is missing, so big that if we compare it in the context of the Earth's underground layers, then it is as big as Mount Everest size. If size of the Earth's layers are missing. Now, why is this comparison made? So, look, history of the Earth is discovered by digging all the layers of the Earth, and I will tell you in detail how. But if you measure this lost history on a geological scale, then you can assume that a big part of Mount Everest is missing from the Earth's layers. So, now the question is, where did such a big part of the Earth's history go? And why in the whole world, so far, is there such a large part of the Earth's layers missing? As far as I know, there is no single person who has been able to escape this mystery completo. Understand this, we will have to start the story from the beginning. In the 17th century, when people were trying to find the answer to this question, what is exactly the age of the Earth at that time? In the 17th century church in Ireland, Archbishop James Ussher is the events written in the Bible told the Earth's age to be 6,000 years now, because the Archbishop calculated this age on basis of religious events. That is why all the people of the time at that time called this age as the life cycle of the Earth. Have closed their eyes and believed it. How can what's written in the Bible be wrong? But in the crowd of thousands of people who believed it to be true, there was one person who thought this age was wrong, and that was the Scottish geologist James Hutton, who founded modern geology. James Hutton's statement was simple: the Earth can't be 6,000 years old, because he believed that the huge structures on Earth, like mountains and ocean beds, take thousands of years to form. So, how can the Earth be 6,000 years old? And how can it be? Now, because Hutton was going against the Archbishop, that's why people scared him away from society. Like it used to happen a lot back then. This happened with Galileo too. But curiosity is a bug. Even after people's behavior, Hutton had full faith in his theory, which he later proved by giving important evidence. To prove his point, he started studying different soil samples. During this study, he noticed that, due to the continuous interactions of atmosphere and water, stones were formed, and the soil was slowly breaking and turning into soil. And when the soil is accumulated on each other like this, due to heavy pressure, it turns into stone again. The whole process is slow and time-consuming. Now, this is how Hutton discovered something very important. He discovered that the layers of soil formed at different times tell us the story of that particular time, meaning, clearly, Hutton believed that it takes thousands of years for huge structures to form. And in the end, he was right with a big discovery. With these very same proofs, he published his theory. And as we looked at it, this theory of Hutton spread all over the world. After reading it, brilliant minds around the world came to know about two things for the first time. First, there are different layers of soil beneath the Earth. And second, every layer of soil tells the story of a past period of the Earth. We can understand this by the fact that the Earth is a library, and there are different layers of soil present in it. Every layer of soil is a book. Now, when we read a history book, we learn about the story. Just like we study these layers, we learn about all the past events in those layers, and that's why, to study the history of the Earth, the researchers of that time started studying many of its soil layers, and they made a map of them. They named it the geological time scale of Earth. Now, just a few years after the creation of this map, a geologist saw that a very important book is missing from the Earth's library. the very same book which contains the knowledge of this process, which our modern-day scientists want to know, about how unicellular and multicellular germs has changed. Now, friends, if you keep in touch with the science community, then you would know that this is a very big mystery in science. We still have only theories, which have many predictions and models on evolution theory, which use evolution theory to predict what will happen, but we don't have solid evidence in terms of hardcore physical evidences. Now, why is that? Well, interestingly, there are two theories which try to answer this question, that why is there such a big hole in the history of the Earth? And you know what the worst part is? Both theories and their proofs contradict each other. Now, what are those two theories? And which one is correct according to you? We will talk about this. So now let's know how scientists fill the gap in the history of our Earth. So look, something happened. After the theory of Hutton was published, to collect more evidence on it, an American geologist, John Powell, a famous American Grand Captain, started studying rocks in the Hutton Canyon. Because this area is one of the few places in the world where geologists can clearly see different rock layers of the Earth in front of their eyes. So, when Powell was studying the rock layers, he saw a strange pattern in some of these rocks. He saw that the lower rock is made in a vertical pattern, whereas the rock just above it was made in a horizontal pattern. Now, because Powell knew the theory of Hutton soil layers, he knew that in two layers, such a big difference cannot be naturally seen. And so, according to him, a third layer should have existed between these two layers, which would have worked as a transition between the orientation of these two layers. So, to verify his doubt, he did dating of both rock layers, and he was shocked. He found out that the upper rock layer was made 550 million years ago in the Cambrian era, whereas the lower rock was made 1.7 billion years ago in the Proterozoic era, meaning there was a gap of 1.2 billion years between these two layers. But how? How can such a large soil layer disappear from the Earth? Well, this was also the question in front of Powell, and that's why he started looking for the answer to this question, even after working hard in this direction. Unfortunately, he didn't find any evidence to solve this riddle, and because the real reason behind this phenomenon was unknown, Powell named it the unconformity, meaning it doesn't conform with the natural predictions of geology. It doesn't correlate. Now, maybe you also have this question in your mind, that in a single country of a continent on Earth, the missing of a layer of soil at a specific place is actually such a big problem. It's also possible that at that specific place, a big meteorite fell in the past, or there was a volcanic eruption, and the evidence was lost. Well, this question also came to the minds of scientists, and that's why, whether there is such a gap or not, its investigation was started. That's when they found out that this layer between the Proterozoic and Cambrian period is not only in the USA, but in Scotland, Canada, Brazil, and Australia, meaning it is missing from almost all the continents. So, here the thing was clear. This is a global phenomenon, and when the announcement of this phenomenon being global was made, then its name was updated, and its new name was named the Great Unconformity. This means that, in the whole world, between the Proterozoic and Cambrian period, the 1.2 billion years have always been erased from the history of our Earth. But how? Well, a possible theory says that, during that gap of 1.2 billion years, the Earth was like a snowball, and that's why, due to the melting of the ice at the time, the layer of the Earth is missing today. Actually, when geologists started studying those two layers, they found such black, cement-like layers near that big hole. Now, such black layers are mostly due to tectonic activity, and that's why, to verify whether there was any tectonic activity at that time or not, geologists studied the data of the platotectonics of that time. In this study, they found that, about 1.3 billion years ago, when this hole started forming in the history of the Earth, the condition of the Earth was something like this. At that time, there was only one supercontinent, the Earth, Rodinia, which had just started to break. Due to its breakage, the magma inside the Earth came out of the surface as lava and solidified as black rocks. Now, due to the arrival of lava on the surface of the Earth, two things happened. First, the sulfur coming out of the lava reflected the sunlight coming on the Earth, due to which the overall temperature of the Earth started to decrease. Second, due to the breakage of rhodinia, limestone-like stones in the crust of the Earth came up on the surface, and they trapped the carbon dioxide gas in the atmosphere and started making carbonates. This resulted in carbon dioxide gas gradually decreasing in quantity, and now, due to the greenhouse gas, which keeps the Earth warm, around 750 million years ago, the carbon dioxide was so low that the overall temperature of the Earth decreased. And this is the reason that most geologists believe that, due to the combined effects of these two, the Earth, from the pole to the equator, had frozen like an ice ball. For context, if someone had seen the Earth from space at that time, then it would have looked at something like this, just like a snowball. And that's why geologists named this theory the snowball Earth. But, as we already knew, this is just a speculative theory, meaning a hypothesis, because the layer of black stones proves the existence of rhodinia only, not the existence of ice. And that's why, to prove their hypothesis, they started to find the evidence of the existence of this ice. While doing research in this direction, geologists found this. You can see in this that the lower layer is uniform, but at the same time, there are some slanting lines on it. So, geologists thought that these lines would have formed when the snow swept the soil above a rock bed, and because of this, the texture of the layer just above the gap is quite uneven, meaning the Earth had an ice age, because of which the Earth became a snowball, and eventually that snow melted and swept away a large layer like Mount Everest into the ocean, meaning there was only one major question left. Why did unicellular living beings need to transform into multicellular living beings on the snowball Earth? Well, to answer this question, two researchers from Wisconsin University, Peter and Gracious, started studying the 20,000 oceanic rock samples of the Cambrian era spread in North America. During this study, they found that these rocks had a lot of elements like potassium, calcium, iron, and silica. Now they knew that according to snowball theory, due to the erosion, a large part of Theric had also fallen into the ocean. And what happened was that the elements in the ocean started to multiply, and the biggest loss that the unicellular living beings had to suffer was due to this. Because of this, the body of the organisms was filled with more than necessary elements, due to which they started to die one by one. Ultimately, in this changing environment, in order to kill themselves, they evolved themselves by adopting a unique method. They evolved themselves by excreting these extra elements in the form of calcium phosphate and calcium carbonate minerals. And here comes the interesting part. At that time, they had made all these minerals for their survival, but life gave those things a different turn. Life, with the help of these minerals, made bones, teeth, and shells, and gave birth to new life forms in the form of multicellular organisms. And probably, this was the reason that immediately after this gap, that first multicellular organism existed, a cell, which again was made of, majorly, calcium carbonate. So, fascinating, right? Mystery solved. Well, except there's a twist. According to another study, snowball Earth can never be made. The scientists of the University of Rochester, when they were studying the data of the Earth's magnetic field, another angle came out. They saw that in the history of the Earth, just before the formation, the strength of its magnetic field in today's compass was 99%, and as we know, the magnetic field of the Earth protects it from harmful radiation coming from the sun, and if the magnetic field becomes weak, then the rain of the sun coming from the Earth will start, and the Ice Age cannot be possible. And this is the reason that Snowball Earth, despite giving a near to perfect explanation, is not a complete theory. At the same time, the Ice Age and the reign of solar radiation on the Earth, how can they both be possible? So again, yes, we are back to square one, as is often the case in science, but now, with fresh new ideas and fresh new perspectives. The disappearance of such a large flare from the inside is still a mystery. But this is not the only unsolved mystery. There is one more very big mystery of the Earth, which is still unsolved, an invisible barrier that only 35 kilometers far away from two islands, the animals and birds that are found from meeting. That is why only 35 kilometers away you will see such animals and birds that are completely different from each other. Actually, two islands of Indonesia, Bali and Lombok, which are only 35 kilometers far away from the species of the birds and animals found there, is the difference between the earth and the sky. And the scientists say that there is an invisible barrier that stops the birds and animals from crossing, from mingling. Now, what is this barrier and how was it made? It is a very interesting phenomenon. If you have learned anything new from this video, then do hit the like and subscribe Historical World Info button, and see you next time. Till then, take care.